Hey folks, okay, this is our, let's see, 2014 Christmas video. This will be the last video that we have before Christmas 2014. So I think it's like December 20th or 21st, something like that. So we'll have another video next week, but this is the one for pre-Christmas kind of thing. So this is going to be a fairly short video. This is something that I want to go over, and we've had quite a few requests for how you fix things when something goes wrong. And I had something happen to me on a sign that I just did, a late Christmas gift. Oh, by the way, as you might tell, we have a little bit different background now. We actually kind of upgraded our whole filming situation, where we are actually in a little studio that we built that is dedicated just to our videos, just to try and upgrade and give you guys a little bit better product. So we think the sound is going to be a little bit better. We're hoping that the video is a little bit better, and rather than the old ones with that green background, that was a curtain right in the middle of our shop with stuff everywhere, as you guys probably saw once in a while when you saw what was behind the curtain kind of thing. Anyway, so we kind of like our little setup here, and hopefully better lighting, better sound, better camera stuff. So anyway, hope you guys like it. But so on this sign that I did, and I just finished it up. In fact, the customer's coming to pick it up tomorrow. It's a late Christmas gift, so we don't have time to ship it. They're driving up from Phoenix to get it. So this is what they emailed me, and this is it's a Christmas gift actually for this gentleman's parents. And this is actually, I think, a label off of one of their food products. So he wanted me to somehow turn this into a sign. And this presented a few issues for me. You can see that this is kind of like a watercolor type of thing. The lettering and this kind of thing, because it's very cut and dried and clear lines, that was the easy part. The tough part was in here is making this translate into two-dimensional wood. Presents a problem sometimes. So what I did, I'll show you my finished product here. This is the sign that I ended up doing, and I'm being real careful with it because it's still a little bit tacky actually. It's got to dry tonight. So this is the sign that I ended up with. And but what I did was I had a little bit of issue with this in the production process. So this is clear pine. This is a clear select pine, just 1x12 pine. But because it's the middle of the winter time, we have some cold issues that maybe you have too. And when I started with this board, there was no flaws in it. It was absolutely clear, no cracks, no checks, no issues at all. But in the process, and I started, obviously the board started with sanding sealer before I ever started any layout on it at all. But once I got it carved, and then I was spraying my black ink in here, and generally when I use this pine, you guys know I go 2 real light coats. Because I don't want to really puddle it on there because of the issue with possibly bleeding. The sanding sealer helps with that, but again, you got to be really careful with spraying the ink. So, after I put my first coat of ink on there, let it dry for a while, then I went back and was spraying a second coat on. I realized that it was sitting outside. I realized that it had opened up and created or actually developed some weather checking in several different places on the board. And the problem with weather checking is not necessarily the checks, but if you get ink down in them, then it becomes a black line. And that's what I had. In fact, I had a really bad one right above the B right here. I'm going to turn this sideways so Dad, you can zoom in on it. So right above this B, right in that area there, in fact, it even started like here and went all the way up and went all the way to there. It was a solid black line. I ran it past Dad to see what he thought, and he thought, you know, it wasn't bad and all that, but it drove me crazy. So I had to either scrap the board, throw it in the fireplace and start over, which I really didn't want to do, or see if I could fix it. And it actually had several different places on the board where it actually opened up. And again, the real issue was not that there was checks, but that there was checks and it had spray ink down in them, so they ended up being black lines. That's not acceptable to me. I just couldn't deal with that, so I had to figure out a way to actually fix that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you what I did. Now, unfortunately, I can't show you a real example on this sign because it's already done. But I'm going to emulate what I did do and how I went about fixing that. Now, this might not be an issue for some of you, but maybe it is an issue. It certainly was for me because it was the difference between a piece of firewood or a completed customer sign, especially with the timeline that the customer had to have it. So what I'm going to do is we're going to set up and I'm going to emulate exactly what I did and how I fixed it, and show you how that whole process worked out. Okay guys, so we're back. So I have a piece of pine here, and again I'm just going to try and give you an idea of what I did to fix that black line that was literally a surface crack that had ink down in it. And if I was just to sand it down all the way, I would probably have to sand too deep and sand out some detail. So here's what I did to kind of help me not to be able to take so much surface off of the top of my board. So I've got a piece of pine here. Dad, I think you're going to scroll down.
Got it.
And I'm doing this for a couple different reasons. One is that this board, and many times this pine, will start out super flat when I pick it up, when I buy it, but sometimes it will develop a little bit of a cup this way. So this is just a slight cup, lower end, and higher in the center. This is the way I would want the face of my board. I would definitely want this to be this face of my board. And you guys have heard me say this before. If you have a cup in your board, you would want this to be the top of your board. This would be where you put your carving, because that router base will follow that contour. As the opposite, if you had this, then that router base would catch here, and this would be your low spot. So you definitely want to have this be the crown being in the center, be your board. So that's one of the reasons that I really like. Am I all right there, Dad?
Yeah, you're fine. Okay. You're fine.
That's one of the reasons that I like my little sanders, and I know a lot of you guys like using planers and jointers to get that ink off your board, especially if you're doing inset letters, and that's, hey, if you're good with that, that's fine. One of the reasons I like using the sander is that I can follow that contour of that board and not be taking complete swipes off of the top of the board. If you're not perfectly flat, you'll have low areas and high areas. So anyway, that was something that I wanted to go over real quick. So this is my board. Just pretend this is my sign, and I ended up having surface checks in there that I didn't catch, and I ended up with black down in some surface checks. Now the difference between a surface check and a crack is a crack would go all the way through the board. I'm not talking about cracks, I'm talking about surface checks that is just barely deep. It's not real deep, but it's deep enough that it would be, you would lose a lot of material if you had to sand it all out. So I'm just going to take a Sharpie, a real fine point Sharpie, and I'm going to make just a couple little black lines in it. Now the reason I did that is that on that sign that you saw, that Durban sign, that's what I ended up with after I started. You know, I knew that that's what it was going to be after I sanded it off. That's what I had. I had some black lines in there. They may not have been that dark, but this is just an example kind of to emulate or duplicate the situation that I was dealing with on that Durbin sign. So here's what I do. I've got a little razor. This is yeah, a little razor that, you know, out of one of the razor knives. This is my little pocket knife, so it's a razor out of there. Now what I could do...
Lay that down on the board so we can get a good look at it, son.
You can get that?
Okay, perfect.
Okay,
perfect.
So here's what I do. If I were to just sand that off and I was already down as far as I wanted to go for my carving to show, then I might be sanding off more than I need to. So what I'm doing is I am going to take, and I'm hoping you can catch this, I'm going to take the tip of this razor knife, very sharp tip, and I'm just going to try to scrape out that black so that I don't have to quite take as much of it as I would have to if I didn't scrape that black out. So now, yes, I am scratching the surface, no doubt about that, but now it really won't show, or it shouldn't. So you can see I just barely scratched all that black out, or, you know, 99% of it. Now I'm going to come over here, Dad. I hope you're still with me.
Still with you, son.
So now I can hit it with my sander. And all that black is gone. Now, the same thing would have happened if I just hit it with my sander and I didn't scrape it with a knife, but I would have had to go just a hair deeper in order to get all that black out. If I go and because you're sanding this thing anyway, if I go and I scrape that black out, I don't have to go quite as deep with the sander. Now there's the second, or I guess the third reason that I wanted to do this video. That is an instance where, again, if you're looking at the overall picture of this sign that I did, and you look at it right from the surface, you will see some spots are sanded a little bit more than other spots. That's why I really like these little sanders, because once you develop a touch with them, you can sand off a little bit more here or a little bit less there, whereas if you're just running it through a planer, it's going to take it all off evenly all the way across, and you may not want that. You may want to just take a little bit more off here or a little bit less there. And with these little sanders, that's what I've been able to kind of do. It does take a little while to get used to, and I know a lot of you, we heard feedback, a lot of people they're not real comfortable with the sander. And honestly, sometimes the sander takes a little bit more practice to get a hang of how to use this sander. But once you do, I mean, I can sand a square inch. If there's a little black spot that I need to get off, I can just touch it with my sander and I can pinpoint every little spot that I want to come out there. And again, the overall look of the sign doesn't change at all. It just, you're a little bit deeper sand in one area than you are another. This sanding belt is my 80 grit. This is an 80 grit sanding belt. That's my finished sand. And I know a lot of you guys use orbital sanders, and the same rule applies there. So that's the reason another reason why I really like the little sanders rather than the planer or the joiner to take the ink off. So that just gives you an example. That's how I fixed that sign. Because even though those little black lines, they were just real slight, and maybe nobody else would have noticed them. I did, and I just couldn't do that. I'd rather just scrap the thing, even though I had, like, gosh, I don't know, 6 hours in that because of all the layout. It was just...
You laid that out with carbon paper.
That was a carbon paper layout, yeah. Yes, I did that all by hand with carbon paper layout, and I had to blow it up. And anyway, so there was a lot of time involved, probably more time in layout than there was actually carving. to where I got it just the way I wanted it. But anyway, guys, I just wanted to share that with you. That's a fix. Now, we're going to do another video later on that is how you fix cracks. So not a surface check. Surface check, again, is just really shallow, but it's shallow enough, and especially if you get ink in there, this is how I go about fixing those. You may have a better option.
That's going to be later on in a later video, though, not later on today.
Not in this video.
Not part of this one.
No, we'll make a separate video altogether how I go about fixing cracks. A couple different ways I do it. But yeah, this was just surface checks, not cracks. So anyway, I guess that's about it for now. Again, Merry Christmas to everybody.
Merry Christmas.
We're not the Happy Holidays sounding guys. We say Merry Christmas. So I'm sure there's probably one or two of you out there that don't do the Happy Holidays. We do the Merry Christmas. So hope everybody has a great week. We're going to get this up and posted, and we'll see you again next week. Have a great Christmas, guys.